Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of comics associated with Halloween and breaking down whether these are the types of books that are good candidates to send in to have them be graded. The idea behind this video series is to take a look at books that people may already have in their collections and evaluate whether spending a few dollars on these books to have them be graded is a good way to go to increase the overall value of the collection. And for this analysis, we're going to be using comicspriceguide.com, a fantastic resource out there for determining the value of raw and graded comics. If you have not checked them out yet, I definitely encourage you to do so. The link is down in the description. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of examples of books that you potentially want to send in to be graded if you happen to already own them. And as a reminder, I use $70 as the all-in cost for these books. And that includes the purchase price of the book, the shipping to and from, the clean, the press, and depending upon the services you use, how you choose to ship the book, how much you may have paid for that book, you can adjust that $70 any way you want to. But for the purpose of this, we like to keep it simple and say that we have an all-in cost of $70. So we're going to be taking a look at a couple of books here using Comics Price Guide. And the very first book that we're going to look at is a book that has been pretty hot as of late. And I happen to have a couple of copies of it in the collection, so I thought it was fitting to focus on this one. This is Dazzler issue number 1. And so that's what we're going to be taking a look at here. I want to try to make this a little bit bigger so that you guys can see it a little bit better. So we have a great image of Dazzler issue number 1 on the cover. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be dressed up as Dazzler for Halloween. But on the right-hand side, in terms of the data, we have our condition or our grade. In the middle column, we have the raw comic book value and the graded comic book value for this book. And this book has suddenly become incredibly popular, of course, because of Taylor Swift and the rumor that she is going to be in the Deadpool 3 movie. So if we are assuming an all-in cost for this book of $70, where would we draw the line on sending this book versus not sending the book? And I think it's probably clear to everyone out there that the line in the sand for this book is the 9.8. If you do not have a high grade copy of this book, potentially you do not want to send this book in to be graded. And the reason for that is the graded value of the 9.8 is $210. The value for the 9.6, just one grade down, is $80, which doesn't give you a whole lot of cushion if the value of this book fluctuates, which it absolutely will. It is at a high right now because of popularity of Taylor Swift, and people are taking a look at this book. If the value of this book drops when the popularity of what's happening right now decreases, the value will go down. And so that $80 is not going to look attractive if it starts to be 70, 60, 50, which very well could happen. You have cushion at the 9.8. So if you have a copy, pull it out, look it over. If you start to see lots of defects that are not pressable defects, you know that this is not a comic that you actually want to send out. Instead, put it in a poly, put it in a Mylar, and enjoy it for what it actually is, right? Because this video is all about investing in your comics by spending a few dollars on them to have them be graded. But that means that not every book is going to be a candidate for that. So the next book that we're going to look at is this book right here. It is Batman Adventure Mad Love. And I do believe that this is a one-shot. I've had a couple of people ask me about this book, so I thought that it was fitting to talk about it. Also, it's Halloween. And so there's going to be a lot of people out there that are also dressing up as Harley Quinn. So this book right here is her second appearance and also her origin. So where would we draw the line with this awesome comic from DC? When was this book published? 1994 is when it dropped. If you look here on the right-hand side, you can see the 9.8 graded is going for $425. The 9.6, $175. The 9.4 is going for $125. And the 9.2 is going for $100. Some folks might be okay with drawing the line around the 9.2, and there would be nothing wrong with that at all. Again, I personally like a little more cushion to absorb the variability that comes with the value of collectibles. But if you have this book, you may decide that you're going to send it in at the 9.2 because, again, $30 might be important, right? That might be a meaningful amount of money for you. Maybe you pay less for it. Maybe you're not going to get it pressed for whatever reason. And you also can create a little bit more cushion there. Personally, personally for me, I would draw the line at the 9.6. I would draw the line higher because at a 9.6, the value of this book is $175. And so even if you have some fluctuations in value, which you have, I feel like there's enough cushion there to actually be okay. And maybe if I was feeling frisky, I go with the 9.4, $125. I don't know, but maybe on a good day, I'm like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and risk it and I'll send it in. One of the great things is that you can always put a pre-screen in place if you decide to submit the book. You're going to pay a little bit of money to have them evaluate it and send it back to you, but that'll be a lot less money than if they were to grade this book and this book come back at an 8.0, which has a value of $70, right? So you can use the pre-screen to your advantage, but you also want to take the time to look at the book yourself. Look at the book, look at the defects, ask yourself, is this a pressable defect or not? Is this a material defect? And if so, how much will this potentially impact the grade? If you do not know how to grade, I would encourage you to start doing some research. There's a couple of videos here on the channel that can actually help you to figure out how to properly grade. But again, Batman Adventure Mad Love, I would draw the line probably around the 9.6. If I was feeling frisky, the 9.4. Some of you may choose to go a little bit lower, but that is one of the great things about this hobby is that we can all decide where it is that we want to draw the line. So I thought it would be interesting to take a look at a book that isn't necessarily on the beaten path. This is not a Marvel or DC book, but it is a comic that is associated with a legendary artist that worked for both. This book is from Jack Kirby, and it is the first appearance of Gru. It is also Destroyer Duck, right? By title, this is Destroyer Duck issue number 1, released in 1982 by Eclipse. That is who released this. And again, I have a couple of copies of this book in the collection. And so I thought it would be cool to take a look at this one. So where would we draw the line? Where will we draw the line with this book? If we go ahead and look at the last column here on comicspriceguide.com, it might be pretty clear where we draw the line. At least in my opinion, I would draw the line for this book at the 9.6, the near mint plus. At a 9.6, this book has a value of $130. Again, it can absorb the variability that happens, but maybe you paid chump change for your book. Maybe you paid $1.50 for it, and maybe you want to move it down a little bit more. Maybe go for the 9.4, which has a value of $100. But again, in my mind, 9.6 or higher. If you have a 9.8, if you pull it out and your copy is pristine, super sharp corners, no spine ticks, no stress lines, no rust, looks pretty good, 9.8 has a value of $450. Again, according to comicspriceguide.com, that is not a bad way to go. Maybe you have some defects that are present. 9.6 is not a bad way to go. But again, let's say that you have these books in the collection, you pull them out, you eyeball them, you recognize that they're maybe not where you would want them to be. There is nothing wrong with Mylar or a poly bag. There's a link in the description to save yourself about 10% at BCW. If you need those supplies, they are down there. For the sake of Halloween, there are a couple of other books that I want to highlight here that are all associated with Halloween. And part of the reason why I want to do this is someone also asked me about this title recently. And so I wanted to provide a little bit of insight around the Long Halloween. This is a story arc. I think it was 13 issues that came out. Now, if you happen to have these books in your collection, in my mind, there are only 3 that I would worry about grading. 3 in the entire run of 13. And that includes Long Halloween issue number 6, number 8, and number 9. Number 8 specifically is the first appearance of Sophia Falcone. And so that is a key book. The 8 and 9 issues also have some value. But in the case of all 3 books, I would only send them in at the 9.8. And the reason for this is that the data is a little weak in terms of the census count and in terms of the number of sales, specifically for issues 6, 8, and 9 at a 9.8. The data is a little weak, so you definitely want to take some caution there. But as I've demonstrated over the course of this video, there is some cushion with those 3 specific books. All of the others, great book, great story arc, enjoy it, keep it in a poly, put it in a Mylar, but I do not know if I would grade those books based upon the data that I've seen thus far. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, I definitely want to encourage you to give the video a thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I want to encourage you to go ahead and do that now. And if you want to reach out to me, you can do it on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
This thing on? Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yo, should you practice art, or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it, not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, you know, the one that's gonna be a master, the one that's more than a rapper, the one that's an educator, the one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts, he's got the mindset expansive. He understands that it's time combined with travel and concepts makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan, straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms of pure souls having them conversations, synergy and combination.